Welcome to Barn Banter, the podcast by Horse Illustrated. Each month, we bring guests to educate, entertain, or inspire you as you pursue the horsey lifestyle, plus an adoptable horse with a unique story. I'm Susan Friedland, an equestrian author, blogger, and speaker with a soft spot for off-track thoroughbreds. You can find me at my blog, saddleseekshorse.com, or on Facebook or Instagram at saddleseekshorse.
And I'm Holly Kakanis, editor-in-chief of Horse Illustrated and Young Rider magazines. You can find us at horseillustrated.com, youngrider.com, and Horse Illustrated and Young Rider on Instagram and Facebook.
Hey, Holly.
Hello, Susan. It's going great. How are you?
I'm good. I wanted to report back to you. I think I've shared with you the fact that I'm an aspiring dressage diva. We've covered that territory before, right?
I like it. Just waiting for your crown.
Yeah, I know. Where is my tiara? No, but I have actual report, a horse show report, if you will, if you can call a virtual horse show a horse show. Yeah, it's a horse show.
Yeah. So well, please share it with the class.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. This show and tell I'm holding up the judges' scorecards. No, but so my local dressage club is having a virtual series in the winter. So it's January, February, March, April, and you basically send in a video of whatever dressage test suits you, and then you get the scorecards. And I will say, I'm going to receive some ribbons in the mail. I'm going to receive a blue ribbon and a yellow ribbon. Okay, but don't get too excited because there weren't a ton of entries. But
hey, we don't ever have to talk about that.
Okay, yeah. So no, I do want to share. I did the USDF Intro Test A and Intro Test B. These are walk trot tests, which, you know, I have been riding for most of my life. I am a middle-aged woman now, so I feel like I should know how to walk and trot a horse, but I'm still learning.
We're always still learning, all of us.
Yeah. So I really struggled with memorizing the test. I really struggled with that. And I don't know, I used to do like hunter jumper shows. So like I haven't done one in years, but there was a time in my life when I could memorize a course, but this just seemed really hard for me. So you know what I did?
What?
I got scratch paper. I did all the dressage letters. I laid them out on the living room floor, and I walked like with my hand. You know, my elbows are bent, like I'm walking a horse. Like I'm almost. Yeah,
I like it. I like it.
And then as I was going to the different letters, I'd be like, okay, walk, 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 and then I get to the letter like trot, 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 and then I kind of jog a little bit. So I think it was an effective way to memorize the test because I've never done something like this without having a reader. And I did test A for the video, followed by test B, which is a different test for the video. And I memorized them both. So like that's victory alone.
Good.
You know?
Yes.
But I will say, so I'm looking at the judges' scorecards, and I got some positive feedback and some critique.
That's
so
okay.
I had my free walk. I had some clear rhythm, but I could also develop more downward stretch. And the thing with the free walk, you know, it's the horse, like, I guess the ideal is you're on the buckle. And the horse
not
is really
on the buckle. See, I have studied a lot about free walk because it has a coefficient of 2. So you always want to get the very best score out of any movement on free walk. You want to have some contact, but stretch down, not get behind the bit. The horse is really swinging his back and overstriding in a loose, swingy walk, like stretching down into the contact. But you don't want to throw away the contact.
Well, I think I may have thrown away the contact. But anyway, so I'm picturing like, okay, Knight, you're going to be all stretched down. And there was a bit of a lower headset. But then when you see the video, it's like, oh, yeah, that really didn't change that much. So I've got some work to do. But it said that my position was balanced. These are the collective marks.
That's good.
But at times, impulsion at times needs more forward energy. And I knew that.
I'm not surprised because I know your horse, and that's what we love about him. He's not scary and fast.
Yes. Okay. But then the other thing, and this is what's so crazy, is the unsteady and bridle. And like, I am just really struggling with contact because I feel like I'm being so sympathetic.
Welcome to the club, girl. Yes.
I know. So anyway, it's a work in progress, and
I'm telling you, I have scribed at shows, and I've watched hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of tests, and when I watch it, I can tell, wow, this person has solid contact. The horse is solidly receiving the contact. They have a good, I just let the reins slip through my hands. I constantly get my reins too long. But I can appreciate seeing what it looks like. And the free walk, when I see a good one, I'm like, oh man, that horse is just moving over the ground like a huge walk, versus like a horse that's like barely inching along all stiff. So I can look at it and see it. But yes, riding it is much harder.
Yeah.
So, and
you know what? You're giving me an idea.
Okay.
Maybe I should scribe.
Yes. You definitely should volunteer at any show, like schooling show. You can do recognized shows. I've scribed intro through second level, and you learn a ton. Or you could scribe at a eventing show, but I've just scribed at regular USDF shows. But yeah, memorizing a test, because I'm an eventer, we don't have readers, and since I was a kid, I had to memorize. So I'm really used to it. So it's interesting to hear from someone who has never had to do it that it's hard, because I don't even think about it. When I was a kid, we had this patch of lawn that was rectangle shaped, just like a dressage court. And that was where I would trot and canter my way through all my practicing. And then as an adult, I just grab a blank sheet of paper, draw the arena with the letters. Because in eventing, we have a short court, 40 by 20 instead of 60 by 20 for real dressage. USDF, you use the 60 by 20, not the 40. So it's a little bit more of an abbreviated rectangle, and I just draw my letters and use a pencil and do it over and over and over. And then the day before I leave for the show, I ride my horse through the test probably one or two times right before you go. So it's as fresh as possible. And then when I'm warming up at the show, I just go through it in my head and make sure I know, am I turning right or left? Where does that trot circle start? And that's all I do. So don't put pressure on. You'll be fine. You'll get it.
Well, so I will share my scores, because again, this is like you're talking about coefficient, and you may as well be discussing physics. But okay, so again, this is USDF 2023 intro level test A walk trot. My score was a 70.31.
Wow.
My test
70
B
is amazing.
intro level. Really?
Are you kidding me?
Really?
I think the goal in dressage is to just be at a 60 or above. And you're on track.
Okay, because 70...
You're doing great. But a 70 is incredible. So
well, then my test B, I got a 67.5. Okay, so here's what I'm trying to figure out. Okay, because, I taught for so many years, so a 70 in school world is a C-.
Okay, you're looking at it. No, girl. No, don't even go there. Because you're talking a good rider at a show would get all 10s, and that doesn't happen. You might get 110 in your life on a movement. And so if you got all 6s, your whole test was all 6 out of 10, you'd get a 60%. If all your movements were 7s and your collective marks were 7s, you'd get a 70. So that's obviously, like I said, since 70 is absolutely astonishingly good, all 7s would be. And in reality, you're probably going to get a 4, an 8, 7, 7, 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, 4.
Any 4s?
Great. That's great. You don't really want that 4 because it means your horse probably crow hopped or bucked or threw his head in the air or did something if you got a 4. So, but yeah, I mean, I've done so many dressage tests, but yeah, I can tell you if you have a 4, a 5, a 5, a 6, a 6, a 7, a 7, a 6, a 6, 7, and then you get a 60%. That's an average. And that's, like I said, in dressage, you want to be at 60 if you're riding the test at a show. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a trainer, but I'm just saying from what I hear about pure dressage, because eventing we score 100 minus %. So we get a what's it called? Penalty score. So like a 30 would be really good.
A penalty score?
40, a 40 is like a 60. So a 40 is like a 60%. And I would say on most thoroughbreds, I'm getting a 40 just in my background. So if I ever got a 30, I would be like over the moon because that's a 70%. And the winner at a show might have a 25, which is like a 75%. But that's like that one person that was so good. But yeah, all the people on thoroughbreds are often getting 40s, which is, like I said, 60%. So even in eventing, girl, you're good.
This is helpful. Hopefully we didn't just lose some of our listeners who
maybe people don't understand like how dressage is scored, and now they'll know. But there you go.
I don't know that I still fully have command of it, but we'll save that for another day. But Holly, I would love to ask you a couple questions here, unrelated to dressage. So I have known you for many years, and our listeners have known you for a while. Tell us a little bit about you beyond horses. You're very immersed in the horse industry and riding and all that, but like, what else do you like or enjoy? How do you spend your time when you're not doing horse things?
Well, I'm so flattered that you care to ask, because I feel like I never talk about anything except horses. But I'm trying in my, midlife crisis years to find other hobbies and things to like enrich my life. And I do have a young child, so a lot of my life is like going to the park and then going to the park again. But, I'm trying to find my hobbies again. I was a big reader as a kid. I sort of lost that throughout like career and college and all that. So I've tried to get back into reading, mostly back, during COVID and having a little more time, picked up reading again. So I love to read. I'm trying to do like 50 to 100 books a year. So that's my goal. And
then that's a lot of books.
Yeah, well, fiction. So it's not like I'm wading deep into World War II tanks or anything, which takes a lot longer for me to read nonfiction. And then I also gotten into painting, like not good painting, just kind of like terrible hobby painting. But I love the Impressionists. And so my friend and I go to Pinot's Palette, which is one of those places where you can like get a glass of wine and they spend 2 hours teaching you how to paint some particular picture that you know about ahead of time, so you can pick out one you like that will eventually hang on your wall. And it's just fun. I just love it. It's very relaxing, and I'm super type A, and you kind of have like a mental breakdown when your painting starts coming out bad, and then you're like, this is the worst thing ever. But then you're like, but it doesn't matter. It's just fun. So it kind of, you go through this process, and it's just very fun. Okay.
Oh my gosh. Can you please, in the show notes, put one of your paintings?
Sure. Yeah. I've done a couple of Van Gogh's Starry Night spin-offs at this place that we go, because I don't know why. I just love that painting, and I just can never capture, obviously, the beauty of Van Gogh because he's my favorite painter. But, we try to just get a little hint of the beauty of the painting. Well, so... And then my last new hobby that I have just started doing is a podcast for fun, not for work. And it's called Redheads on Romance. If anyone wants to find it on Apple Podcast or Spotify, we have my friend and I, we read romance novels and we watch Hallmark movies, and then we talk about them. So it's just purely for fun. So we're both moms to kids the same age, and this is just something for us that we do just to talk and have fun. So that is my final hobby.
It's a guilty pleasure. I love it.
Yes, exactly. Okay. We need our, it's kind of like the junk food equivalent of reading and podcasting and watching bad movies. So there you go. There you have it. If you want to find me on my other venture. All right, so let's talk a little about our guest today. Our first guest joining us is going to be Amelia Newcomb, and she is a dressage trainer with an extensive online library of training videos and materials that can help not just dressage riders, but I think everybody, since dressage is really a fundamental skill for all riders. And then our next guest will be our first sponsored guest slot, and that is going to be Mary Campbell of Mare Modern Goods. You may be familiar with their cute t-shirts, socks, shirts, cups, hats, bags, all kinds of fun stuff. So that's going to be a lot of fun to talk to her. And then finally, we will have our adoptable horse segment. So be sure to stay tuned to the end for that. For over 30 years, Adequan IM, polysulfated glycosaminoglycan, has been trusted by veterinarians, trainers, and horse owners. Ask your veterinarian if Adequan is right for your horse. Visit adequan.com to learn more. Adequan, start with it, stay with it.
Hey, Amelia, thank you so much for coming on Barn Banter. We are excited to get to know you a little bit. How are you doing this morning?
I'm great. I'm excited to be here. I always love talking about riding and talking about horses. So thanks for having me on the show.
Wonderful. So we want to learn more about you, but we're also obsessed with horses. So can you give us little mini bios on your mounts that you ride currently?
Yeah, I have Kensington. So Kensington is 10 years old this year. I've had him since he was 5. And currently Kensington is doing the small tour, which is like the pre-St. George and the I1. So that's where it starts to get fun with like pirouettes and tempi changes. And I also have a Grand Prix horse named Harvey, who is 12 this year. And I've had both of those horses since they were 5. And that's what I love, is really getting them when they're young and then developing them up through the levels, because horses, you know, you really develop that bond and that partnership with them through years and years of riding them and training them.
So, how did you first get involved in dressage? I was kind of thinking about this because I feel like the trajectory for someone who wants to learn how to ride horses is their local riding stable. And maybe it's, depending on geography, a place where they can ride around Western or maybe get involved in hunter jumper. So like, I don't know that there is a way for someone. So like, did you have another discipline first, or how did you land on dressage, and what do you love about it?
I actually was lucky enough to start in dressage because my friends in elementary school were riding dressage, and I had a wonderful first riding instructor named Julie and a big group of kids that rode dressage. But I do think that that has changed since then. And I feel like we need to help get more kids riding, particularly in dressage. Sometimes I think people think, like, especially kids, like dressage isn't exciting enough and they want to jump and go fast. But, you know, dressage is really the foundation of all the disciplines. That's what I love about dressage, is that whether you're an eventer or a jumper, or you just want to trail ride and enjoy your horse, or you do Western, the basic principles of dressage really do apply to all of the disciplines.
And so I heard that you were recently horse shopping in Europe. I've never done that. I've heard of people doing that. It sounds very exciting. Can you maybe give us a little bit of insight to what that experience is like, and maybe even just beyond that? Because I know not all of our listeners will do that kind of shopping, but like, what do you look for when you're horse shopping?
It's quite an amazing experience to go and look at horses. In Europe, my mom and I went together. We drove 1,800 miles over 5 days, like between the Netherlands and Germany, and we went a little bit into Belgium. And it's always incredible just to see so many horses, so many quality horses that have been, you know, well started, well ridden. And I just love it. It's a bit nerve wracking, especially getting on young horses that you don't know. And, you know, kind of like trying to feel them out and take their time. But it's an amazing experience. And at least for me, I think that seeing the horse in person and actually riding the horse is really valuable. And sometimes what you see on a video is very different than what you actually feel when you sit on that horse. And I think that that's an important takeaway for everyone listening to the show, which is temperament is everything. Like, above all else, you have to click with the horse, and the horse has to be willing to kind of put up with you a little bit. We all ride a little bit differently. And especially if you're not a professional rider, you need to have a horse that's going to be tolerant of you maybe making a little little mistake or being a little bit out of balance. And you really want to look for a horse that's willing to try for you and willing to adjust. And that I always feel like if it's a horse that I don't want to get off of, then that would be a good horse to get. If you're like, okay, get me off of this horse, then you're like, that's probably not the right horse.
Oh my gosh. So are you allowed to share if you found any new partners or friends over there? Or?
It's still a work in progress.
Okay.
It always takes forever. It always takes forever. And it's so hard, to get them to pass the vet check, and like everything has to be right. So it's important not to get too emotionally invested in it until it's actually a done deal. And I always feel like until the horse is actually at your barn and you can ride it, then you can be excited. But until then, buying horses, I don't know about you, but it's tough and so much can go wrong. So you're always excited and at the same time just terrified that something will go wrong.
It's definitely not for the faint of heart.
No.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So I was introduced to you via a friend at the barn where I ride, who is a huge fan of yours, and she's part of your community. And she showed me some of your videos, and I was like, wow, what a beautiful rider and all that. But for people who don't really know who Amelia Newcomb is, maybe you could you gave us your horse bios, but maybe tell us a little bit about yourself.
I don't know if there's anything about me that doesn't have to do with horses. I started riding in elementary school. I was a terrible rider, actually, when I first started. I fell off all the time. And I was so bad that my instructor almost told my mom, she should probably quit riding because it just isn't for her. But for me, horses are everything. And they, as a kid, I didn't really fit in. I never had a lot of friends. I was always kind of awkward. And when I started riding and I had a horse, that was kind of when everything changed for me, and I started to have a purpose in my life, and I had a passion and a joy in my life. And so I never thought that I would have a career in horses and in training people. I always thought I'd go to medical school or do something like that. But I've always come back to it because it is something that I'm so passionate about and something that I love so much. And even on the holidays, my favorite thing to do on Christmas Day is go to the barn and ride my horses. So I feel very fortunate that I get to have such a passion, and that I also can share that with so many people all across the globe and help them out with their horses. So it's really fun.
Mm-hmm. What are some of the most common mistakes or challenges that you see? You've got a huge global audience. What is it that people struggle with?
Everything. I think the biggest thing that we all struggle with is, just the basics of how to communicate with and interact with a horse, because it's not like you and I can sit here and we can use words to communicate, and that doesn't work with our horses. And so we have to find a different way of communicating with them, through body language, through pressure and release, through repetition, and really figuring that piece of it out and understanding how we can talk to our horses and how we can train them to do these amazing things. Because what's amazing about horses is that they're so honest and kind that if they understand what you want and if they're able to do it, they will do it. So if you're having a problem with your horse, if you can't get your horse to put their head down, then they're not understanding what you want. And so one thing I always try to teach with my students, for example, getting your horse round. I feel like that, I don't know, is that for you a universal thing? Yeah. Okay. So if I have a student that comes and my horse is so stiff and I can't get my horse to put their head down, I go back to, okay, how can we break this down in a way that both the rider and the horse understand? Let's not just kick and pull and put more pressure, because that's not going to work. So what I would do is I always go back to groundwork. I'm such a big fan of groundwork, and just simple things like teach your horse to lower their head when you put pressure on their pull. Teach your horse to bend to the left and bend to the right. And then if you break it down like that, they'll start to soften in their body and they'll start to give to the pressure and understand how to react to the pressure of the bit and of the leg, and then they'll go around. And I think that that's where a lot of people make the mistake, is that they don't know how to break things down, or they're not willing to go back to the fundamentals and go back to the basics. And everything in riding and training is about the basics and just like going back to something so simple and then working your way back up to the more difficult movement.
What would you say to someone, say there was a person out there named Susan who had an extensive background riding hunt seat, and she recently made the switch to dressage, and she feels like she is just, you know, a princess until she gets the video that her sister took of her riding, and she is posting and riding like a hunt seat rider in a dressage saddle. Do you have any tips for a person like that?
Welcome to dressage. Dressage is really hard. But we have a lot of people that like come over from jumping or hunt seat. And we also have a lot of people in our community that rode as a kid and then stopped riding for a while and are getting back into it. And, you know, like anything, when you're learning something new, you always go through that phase of like, I'm terrible. Like I have no idea what I'm doing. And so it's just a matter of staying consistent and taking those little baby steps. And I also think it's really important not to be too hard on yourself, because in my online programs, a lot of our students, they'll video themselves and then send them in to us for feedback. And so many people are like afraid to video themselves or afraid to even submit video, because it can be really sobering when you see a video of yourself and you're like, oh my gosh, like I've done it too. Or I saw a video of myself riding. I'm like, what are my hands doing? Like, why are my hands flying all over the place? Like, that's so embarrassing. So don't be too hard on yourself. You know, give yourself a little grace. Like, you're new to this. It's totally different feel in like dressage position or in a dressage saddle. I know, because I tried to ride in a hunter jumper saddle the other day, and I was like, wow, my leg muscles are totally different in this saddle. So give yourself a little bit grace, stay consistent, and then also know that video is a hugely valuable tool, because like you said, you thought you were doing great and you saw the video and then you were able to see what you need to fix and what you need to focus on. So I would encourage you to continue taking video of your riding, because that is a great way to visually learn and understand what you need to do in order to progress.
Thank you for that. And while we're on the topic, for a newbie dressage future queen, what tips do you have for memorizing dressage tests, even easy ones like intro A, B, C, training level, etc.?
The best thing that I find, because I'm someone that has to like move around and kind of feel it, is to either you can walk it in your arena, like just get out there on foot and walk through it, or make like an imaginary arena in your living room or in your home where you can just walk through the test. I find that that's the most helpful. The other thing you can do is you can go online and print out like a dressage arena and then draw it out in hand, and that will help you. And then the more that you visualize, so every night, you know, before you go to bed and you can't sleep, closing your eyes and taking yourself through that pattern, that will also help you. And one thing, if you may have seen on my YouTube channel, but I did some really cool test footage where I have drone view. So I have like filming from above so that you can actually see the patterns from above. And that's been really popular for helping people to be able to visualize how the test pattern looks.
That's cool. Okay. So I know earlier you said you love horses so much. So do you have any hobbies outside of horses, like baking sourdough or I don't know, dogs?
I've been trying to broaden my horizons for sure. Honestly, I love exercising. Like, I love working out. I've been working out with a personal trainer and doing some more weightlifting, but a lot of that is because it helps me with my riding. I find that, you know, being fit and being able to really, you know, be strong in your core and coordinate all of your body parts, that does really, really help you out when you get in the saddle, especially if you're a rider that doesn't get to ride a lot. If you only get to ride one horse, the more that you can do stuff out of the saddle to help you when you get in the saddle, that can be really helpful. And I also like to cook. So that's another hobby of mine. I enjoy making nice meals for my husband and I. So those are my two things.
That is cool. And then if someone wanted to go down the dressage path in person and they're not in California near you, like, do you have any advice for how to know if you don't have a dressage background, like questions to ask or things to look for if you're trying to find a place to train in real life locally?
I always recommend going and watching the person ride and also watching the person teach. And I think you can get a pretty good idea, you know, if you like the way their horses look, if their horses look happy and soft, if you like the way that they're riding and you think, oh, like that's someone that I would like to emulate, I would like to ride like them, then that's a good starting place. And then also if you can hear them teach, you know, some older riders, maybe you can't see them ride, but if you can watch them give a lesson, that will give you a lot of good information. And I do think as far as teachers, it's really important that your trainer, both, like you want your trainer to give you criticism and to tell you what you need to do better. But you also want your trainer to be positive and inspiring you in a way that gives you confidence. Like, oh, I can do this. I can go, like I can try. I've had some amazing trainers throughout my career, and the best ones always are that they have a way of like lifting you up where you feel like I can go in and I can do this and I can ride my horse. But at the same time, they're really particular. Like, no, do it again. That's not right. Go back. And it is important when you're teaching. One thing I always try to focus on is always saying things in the positive. So for example, if I'm teaching you, Susan, and you're looking down, telling you stop looking down isn't productive because then you're just thinking, look down. But if I say, Susan, look up, look at the trees, look at the sky, it's a beautiful day, then that's going to instantly get a better response in your brain. So when you're looking for an instructor, you want an instructor that's giving you that positive direction for your rides, like do this, do that. Good job. Let's repeat it. That wasn't quite right. You don't want a trainer that's just telling you, bad job, that's not right. And same thing when we're riding our horses, you know, we need to remember to tell our horses like, good, that's right. You know, good job. Oh no, let's try it again. Because if when you're riding your horse, it's always like, no, wrong, bad, your horse is going to give up and your horse isn't going to try anymore for you. So that's my philosophy on trainers.
That's amazing. And I have a education background, so I know everything you said just resonated with me, especially just the language, because you're reinforcing the negative with looking down. Whereas by saying look up, that's the goal, is to have the eyes up. And that, Holly, you've been a little quiet over there. I'm sure you have some burning questions for Amelia.
I do. And first I want to say, even though I've been an eventer for 30 years, like my entire riding career, I still perch like a hunt seat rider, even though I've never been a hunt seat rider. So Susan, it's okay.
Thank you for making me feel better, Holly.
It's very normal. And that's, the cringe element of me watching my dressage tests on video. It's like, sit in the saddle. What are you doing? So I'm with you, totally with you. So I could probably use some of the lessons that Amelia has. And I'm interested to learn more about that. But first, I wanted to ask you, I just was reading your website and really liked the story of Geronimo and you as a kid, and you were like riding your bike 7 miles to the barn. And I know our readers love like those kind of backgrounds where you just had to really struggle to get those horses in your life when you didn't have the parental support. I mean, my parents did not get it at all. They wished I wouldn't do it, but here we are. We're all the same horse girls, I think. But yeah, could you tell us about that horse Geronimo? It's just a really cool story that I think explains a lot about how you ended up where you are.
Yeah, Geronimo was my first real dressage horse. I got him when I was 14, and he was a green broke 4-year-old, which is probably not the best for like a young kid learning to ride. And with Geronimo, unfortunately, like 3 or 4 months in, he started rearing really badly. And it was totally, now I know it was totally my fault. I did have a trainer at the time, but basically Geronimo, he had trouble really understanding how to soften and round and move sideways. And we were just putting too much pressure on him, you know, putting too much leg and holding him in front. And one day he reared a little and the pressure came off and he was like, oh, cool. That's what they want me to do. But it was quite scary because he would just stand on his hind legs. Looking back, I'm like, I don't know how I didn't get hurt. Luckily I didn't, but it was heartbreaking because Geronimo was like my dream horse. And I was so excited to like win blue ribbons and go to Young Riders and do all this cool stuff with him. And all of a sudden it was like, he's a bad horse. You should get rid of him. Something's wrong with him. And so all of my dreams were like crushed. Luckily, my mom, who was quite supportive, she was like, we're not just going to give up on this horse. You know, he's a good horse. We need to we need to do something different. And that's a really important lesson for all of us horse people, which is if your horse is, you know, if it's not working, if they're really confused, if they're having a big problem, is you need to pivot and you need to do something different. So we went to a cowboy named Larry Fleming and we went totally back to the basics of just basic groundwork handling. Like I didn't really realize, but Geronimo was a little bit disrespectful, a little bit pushy. Like he wouldn't put his head down for the bridle. He would always be looking away and stepping into my space. And so I had to learn the importance of like, from the beginning, every moment that I spent with Geronimo on the ground, I had to reestablish, you know, that I'm the leader and that he should be paying attention and that he should respond to me. And then also teaching him how to bend and yield through his body from the ground first, so that when we got on and we applied those same aids, that he understood, you know, to soften and to go forward instead of rearing. And so at the time, of course, it was not the journey I wanted to go on. I wanted to be showing dressage, but I learned so much by that horse and by having that problem and having to overcome it. And eventually I did get Geronimo all the way up to the FEI levels. He was an incredible horse. He learned all the dressage movements. He also, a lot of other riders rode him and got their bronze medals on him. But I'm so grateful for that opportunity to, you know, go a little bit into the natural horsemanship side of things and learn how to deal with horses that were quote unquote problem horses. Like, and I don't really like that label because I think most of the time we're the problem and we're not explaining it to them or we're not helping the horse the way they need to be helped. But through that experience with Geronimo, from there, I worked for Brock Brannaman's sister-in-law for a few years and we started like, you know, hundreds of horses. We worked with problem horses. And so I got a ton of experience of working with horses that were untrained or had various problems. And I'm so grateful for that because especially as a trainer, no one ever gives you like a perfectly trained horse. And there really is no such thing as a perfectly trained horse. I'm sure you know that. As a horse owner, you're either training the right thing or you're training the wrong thing. So it's so important that you understand like the basic principles of how horses think and how you train them so that you can have success with your horse.
Awesome. And then, so for your courses that you teach, say someone doesn't live close by to you, but they're interested, you know, in your training and learning from you, or maybe they don't have access to trainers where they live. So you have a YouTube channel, a dressage academy, and master classes. Can you explain kind of what the difference is there and what people can find for each one?
Yeah, we have a huge breadth of content. And the best place to start is just to head over to my YouTube channel, Amelia Newcomb Dressage, or just go to YouTube and Google my name, like Amelia, and literally any problem that you're having, whether it's like groundwork or leg yields or canter or whatever, and there will be a video that will pop up and that can right away be helping you out with that. And it's been amazing. We have over 300,000 YouTube subscribers now, which is so cool. My mission really is dressage for all. And I'm just committed to helping riders all over the world, because I know a lot of you're so hungry for education and for learning, but maybe you don't have a trainer every day, or you're in the middle of nowhere and you can't get lessons. And so that's a wonderful way to get started. And then from beyond the free content, there's also different master classes that we do, different challenges that we have. We have some programs specifically on canter. We have our 30 Days to Round challenge, which we run in September. That's an all-time favorite of our students. We're launching a new rider position masterclass this year. We have some groundwork courses. So there's kind of something for everyone. And the reason we do that is because you're all at a different place in your journey, and you may be at a place that you need to focus more on groundwork, or you want to focus on cantering your horse, or you want to compete your horse. So there's something for everyone there.
Sounds good. Well, Susan, if you didn't have anything else, did you have any other questions?
Just one final question, Amelia. So where I am, I'm in the Chicago area, and there's supposed to be an ice storm today. And yesterday I ground drove my horse. I tried to ground drive at the start of the week, and then just do a lot of walking. He's a little bit of older guy with some kissing spine. And someone asked me, "Are you riding today?" And it's like, well, there's going to be an ice storm. How do you stay motivated? I know in California you don't have to deal with ice storms, but how do you stay motivated and so passionate day in and day out?
I think it's important to be able to adjust your routine based on, especially right now with the weather. And even if, let's say you decide, okay, it's not safe for me to drive to the barn and do anything with my horse today, what else could you do today that would help you with your riding? You could, watch a YouTube video, or you could work on your fitness and do a little exercise for yourself, or you could go back and review an old show video, or I think you showed me your test that you had done with your horse. So any of that type of thing will keep that motivation. And one thing that we're doing with our students this year is we're challenging them to a streak. So a streak is can you do one thing every single day to improve your riding? And that could be riding, but that also could be learning, reading a book, watching a video. That could be working on your fitness. That could be doing groundwork, because maybe today isn't a day to ride your horse, but especially if your horse is older, they need to get out. They need to move around. You could work on rein back from the ground. So there's always something that you can do. And with horses, consistency is so important. They're not like a bicycle. You can't leave them in your garage and a week later come back. So the more consistent that you can be with your horse, even if it's just grooming your horse, that's better than not doing anything. So, and I think, for me, motivation is just it's such a passion of mine. I just love it. I love being at the barn. I love being with my horses. There's no place else that I would rather be. And I think we all have goals. We all want to accomplish things in our riding, but it's also important to go back to your why. Why do you have a horse? Why do you ride? And for most of it's just for the love of the horse, or for the love of the feeling when you're in the saddle and when you are riding. That's what I love about it. So that helps to keep me motivated, especially when, you have a bad show or you feel like you're not doing as well as you should be.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Amelia. This was really wonderful to chat with you and get to know you a little bit more.
Yeah. Can you tell us your website and where people can find you on social? Anything, particular handles you want to shout out?
My website is amelianewcombdressage.com. YouTube is Amelia Newcomb Dressage. Instagram is at Amelia Newcomb Dressage. And we also have an amazing Facebook group, which is Amelia's Dressage Club. So if you're on Facebook, you'll have to request to join that group, but it's an amazing community of riders who are excited about learning. And one thing that I really try to promote in my communities is positivity and supporting one another. I think that's really important, that we're all trying to learn. We're all trying to get better. It is a really hard sport, and we need to be there to help and support one another.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Next up, I'd like to welcome our guest, Mary Campbell of Mare Modern Goods. Mary, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
So Mary has an awesome company that I personally have admired for a long time. But can you start out just by telling us a little bit about your equestrian background? When did you first start riding? What type of riding? And what kind of equestrian involvement that has evolved to as an adult?
Yes. So I grew up in South Louisiana and somehow got into riding via a horse camp when I was about 8 years old, which is a story I hear from lots of folks. And it was an English riding camp. So I learned, hunt seat, riding when I was a kid, and I got involved in the kind of hunter jumper world there, which was a pretty low-key environment. It wasn't nearly the kind of intense environment that it seems to be today. It was pretty relaxed and laid back. So I did that from about the time I was 10 until I graduated high school. I got my own horse somewhere along the line. I think I was 14 or 13 when that happened, and rode her for several years, and fully had the horse bug as a kid. It was just my passion, and I loved it. And I would watch show jumping on Sunday afternoons on TV, and was one of those kids that was constantly reading Practical Horseman and all those different magazines that came out, and was just obsessed with horses. And I took about 20 years off of riding. Things change as you get into your 20s and you go through college, and you realize how extraordinarily expensive horses are, and other things kind of take precedence. So I ended up kind of tabling the horses for a little while, but it was always something that was in the back of my mind. I always had that kind of longing for being back around horses. It was just a matter of the timing of it, I think. And now it was about 10 years ago, I was working at a company, and one of the girls that started working with me was an eventer. And so we got to talking, and she was showing me pictures of her horse, and I was like, I think I'm going to just go out to the barn with you one day and see what you're up to and see what the eventing world is all about, and maybe take a lesson or something. And that was kind of all it took to get me completely rehooked into riding. And I always credit Sarah, that was my coworker's name, with helping me get back into horses and get excited about riding, and ultimately to create the business that I created as a result of that. So now it's been about 10 years that I've been back into horses. And went from kind of doing the hunter world stuff to realizing that I kind of wanted to do eventing, which is kind of an interesting, change of pace. At first, when I got back into riding, I thought, well, I'll just do dressage. Like, I don't know if I really even want to jump. Like, maybe that's not what I'm in for anymore. Like, I'm a little bit older and it hurts when you fall, and, I'll just do dressage. So I was like, okay, I'll do that for a little bit. And that kind of turned into, well, I'll just do like a jump lesson and just see how it goes. And, and it was okay, and it was good. And I was like, okay, I'll just do another one, and maybe I'll just keep improving on that. And then I had a friend who rode with me, and she was like, you really need to do eventing. It's so fun. And I'm like, I'm not a very risk-taking kind of person when it comes to my riding. I tend to be pretty safe. So I was like, I don't know, that seems really dangerous. And, an open field with jumps and galloping, and I kind of like things to be a little more controlled, but I ended up doing that and got into eventing, and now I just love it. I mean, I love the community of people that are part of the eventing world. I love the riding itself. And, I could never go back to anything else, I don't think, at this point. Like, I really just enjoy the three disciplines, and I enjoy the challenge that they all bring. And the partnership that I have with my horse primarily is the thing I think that I am the most interested in and excited about at this point. I mean, the riding is, of course, fun and exciting and challenging, but really, understanding my horse and building that connection with her and knowing how to communicate with her and how she communicates with me has kind of really become like the forefront of what I'm most interested in as it relates to my riding and horses at this point.
Well, that's awesome. I've been an event rider my whole life, so I almost can't imagine picking it up as an adult, because people do hear, oh, you're an eventer. That's crazy. You guys are out there in the field just jumping over solid objects. And so, yeah, definitely hats off. It does take some courage to do that, but it makes a lot more sense why some of your shirt slogans and things are so appropriate to eventing, because you know inside and out now. But we'll get to that in a minute.
Yes.
I wanted to ask about, we recently had a career article in Young Rider magazine about your business, and there was an interesting story about how you got the idea to start your company. Could you just tell us a little bit about how that happened?
So when I got back into writing, it had been about 20 or so years since I had left, and my background is in graphic design and branding and marketing and that sort of thing. So I I'm kind of keenly aware of brands that are out there, for mass consumers across different types of audiences. But I was curious, what had changed in the world of the equestrian consumer since I had been a kid. I was used to State Line Tack and Miller's, for anybody that remembers Miller's.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And Dover and kind of, like those larger retailers. But, I was like, well, I love horses. Like, there's got to be fun brands for people that love horses, just like there are for people that love dogs or cats or, other animals. And, surely there's been some, evolution in just the equestrian world for, apparel and accessories and, things that you kind of surround your life with that let the world know that you love horses. And when I endeavored to look to see what was out there, I was kind of disappointed. I was like, there's really not much out here that's very interesting. I mean, personally, I love a lot of color and I love a lot of pattern. And I like bold graphics. And, everything was kind of just still brown, beige, navy, and black for the most part. I mean, solid colors, very safe choices. And I was like, well, this is pretty boring. And I feel like I can do better. And so I decided that was sort of my gap in the market that I would fill would be offering fun products that are colorful and, represent the joy that we feel when we're around horses. And didn't take ourselves too seriously. It's like everything is so serious, it seems like, in the equestrian world. And I wanted to bring, some joy and some levity and some humor to it as well. It's like we spend a lot of time and a lot of money and we break a lot of bones to be with these horses. And, I felt like we can't take ourselves too seriously here, which is sort of my kind of life mantra too. So that was kind of what inspired me to come up with Mare. Was like, well, that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to create these products and see if there's a market for it, and just go from there. And it's kind of evolved since then. But that was what really prompted me to start Mare. That's pretty,
clever to see. Where there's a hole in the marketplace like that and kind of extrapolate from the other brands. So I thought that was a great story that I definitely wanted to have you share. So what would you say now is your mission for Mare Modern Goods? What kind of items do you sell, and what's kind of your mission with it there?
Yeah, I mean, I think I have kind of a baseline offering of products that I'm working on expanding and putting out into more of like a wholesale market. So I've been working with that to try to build my wholesale business. So that includes a lot of products like the wine tumblers and the cocktail napkins and the baseball caps and stickers and cards and those sorts of things. So those are kind of what I would say is kind of like my bread and butter products. And then every season in the spring and in the fall, I'll do a collaboration with a writer or a person in the equestrian community and share their story and create a pattern and design that's inspired by their story and launch that on a limited edition basis for a certain collection of products. So, I think for me, it's like figuring out a way to share the story of how horses can change our lives and how they can really transform us is really important to me. Yes, it's fun to offer fun products that make you laugh, but it's also like sharing those heart stories that are really important to me, and sharing, lots of different kinds of riders, not just showing just the one kind of stereotypical type of rider, but really showing all different kinds of riders. And I think that's really become important to me, to be inclusive and to let people know that horses are not just for one type of person. And, I know there's financial barriers. I'm not ignorant to that, but I think a lot of times people feel like they can't get involved with something because they just don't see themselves in it. So it's important to me to show people that they belong, and that they are welcome in the equestrian world.
Well, that's awesome. I love to hear that, because I agree. You're right. We always saw like one type of person usually in marketing for products. So I feel like we've started to see that change a lot in the last just even couple of years. So I think that's a really good step for our industry. And then do you have any exciting new items coming out that you'd like to promote or tell us about?
Well, I am expanding my drinking collection. So
sounds good.
I discovered that, and this is no surprise, but horse people do enjoy their adult beverages. So I am adding some more products to that line, some flasks, some new cocktail tumblers, and I'm always adding new cocktail napkins. So those are some fun things that are coming out this spring. And I'm working on a few things for fall that'll be more like home good related. So so you can look forward to seeing those. And then, of course, like our spring and fall collaborations will be launching around April. So those are always fun things to look forward to.
And what would you say is your biggest seller? Do you have just like a t-shirt or something that is just, your big, just blows everything out of the water? Or is it pretty even across all the different types of categories?
It's fairly even. Probably some of my strongest sellers are the things that have the word badass on them. That's been consistently a very popular item for all sorts of people, which is always kind of, interesting to me, is that I always think, well, this is going to be mostly for my eventers or, kids or whatever. But then, I'll have like an 80-year-old woman come in and buy like a badass sweatshirt or, badass shirts or whatever. So it's, I love that. I mean, I love that there's like a wide appeal to lots of different folks. So that's been a really strong seller for me. I think people are drawn to the things that have a positive message to them, like about being brave or, trusting themselves or, remembering to breathe, like all those kinds of things that we have to remember as riders. I think people are always kind of drawn to that sort of thing. And I don't know what was going on with 2024, but the stall rest collection was very popular. So I guess that's just a theme for all of us as we just go through life. But so that's something that I'll continue to offer on products and different things.
Yeah. Well, I love all of those. Those sound really good. And then can you just tell us how people can find you either online or find your store in person if they are out and about, where you'll be headed to with your booth?
Yes. So if you shop online, it's www.maregoods.com. And then we're on social media at Maregoods. That's Instagram and Facebook. And to see us in person, we are going to be at the Horse World Expo coming up soon in Pennsylvania. We'll be at Land Rover or Rolex or Defender or whatever it's called in Kentucky in April. Then I'm not, I haven't really totally firmed up the rest of the year. I think we'll be doing the Maryland 5-Star in October, but that's kind of what we have sketched out right now. But we're always adding new things and looking for new events to attend. So feel free to email us with ideas if you have a great show that you think we need to come to.
Awesome. Well, Mary, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thanks for having me. It was great talking to you.
For special rates on Horse Illustrated and Young Rider magazine subscriptions just for our podcast listeners, visit horseillustrated.com/barn banter.
Okay, so joining us today for our adoptable horse, we have Rita Hoke, and she is founder, president, and CEO of Nexus Equine. Rita, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for allowing us the opportunity to talk about Nexus and our horse we have up for adoption, Kate.
And I know you guys are a pretty prominent group. I've heard a lot about you. I know we've had you guys in the magazine for different interviews. Can you just tell us about Nexus Equine and kind of your mission and how many horses you have, where you're located, all that good stuff?
Of course. So Nexus Equine was founded in 2016, and I founded Nexus because of the concern of lack of resources and support for horses when they fall in need. Oklahoma is such a horse-heavy state. We're the horse show capital. Oklahoma City is the horse show capital of the world, but yet there aren't enough resources and support for when horses fall in need. So hence, Nexus Equine was created. And in 2023, we recognized similar gaps and were contacted by some concerned community members in Oklahoma City on the similar gaps in dogs and cats. So in 2023, we expanded our mission to not only include horses, but also dogs and cats. So you might hear our new parent name from time to time, which is Nexus Animals. And then Nexus Equine is continuing as it always has. And Nexus Pets is our dog and cat arm. So we are located about 30 minutes west of Oklahoma City in a smaller town called El Reno. Super easy to get to, right off I-40. We have a 160-acre property. Right now, we have about 30 to 35 horses on our property. And then we also are under construction for 2 buildings to operate our dog and cat programs out of. So we're blowing and going all the time.
So our adoptable horse this month is Kate, that we would like to feature. And just a little background, she is a 17-year-old, 14-2-hand American quarter horse mare. And I know that's just about the most versatile breed there is. Can you tell us about her kind of background and what she does and what she'd be most suitable for?
So Kate came to us probably almost 2 years ago, and she came to Nexus with 3 other horses. They were very emaciated. They were clearly starved. They clearly had lost trust in human, were not trustworthy at all of what we were doing. And, it took them a while to even do that. We ended up losing one of the 4 horses because she was too far gone. And so it's taken us a while to be able to get Kate where she is today. She was she was diagnosed with a very resistant form of EPM. And so we had to do several rounds of the different EPM medications that finally cured her. She was she was very neurologically affected with it, and you could barely touch her, and she would just, the nerve endings were like raw. And so after we changed the medications, we had a different vet take a look at her. She's pretty much EPM free. So I'm really excited about that. We have come leaps and bounds with her. She trusts us. She comes to us. She allows us to pick up her feet. We've put a few rides on her. What the ideal home would be, Holly, is someone who wants a project and is a very patient person, because she continues to need to be reminded that all is okay, but the trust is there because we've been able to progress with her. We're getting there. So we're just looking for someone that might want that horse that they can, have a project with, and then, be able to see all the fruits of their labor as they continue, that relationship with her. She's a beautiful girl, and she's the last one of this group that we have. And we all really want to see her find her right home.
Absolutely. And she's a good looking girl, nice white blaze, seems like very typey, quarter horse build, just adorable.
Yeah, she is.
So
she really
we'll put some pictures of her up on the show notes so everyone can see.
Oh, thank you so much.
But yeah, I would say she looks great. And if people are interested in her, where can they go to learn more about the adoption process?
So our website is nexusequine.org. And all of our horses are on our website. They're also on the ASPCA Right Horse website. And there is an adoption interest form that people can fill out, and it just allows us to get to know the person can get to know Kate. We want to make sure that we're a resource for adopters long after they adopt a horse from us. So that's the first step, is just filling out that form and submitting it, and then someone from Nexus will call you and, begin the process of adopting Kate.
Wonderful. Well, hopefully she will find her forever home through this interview. So thank you so much for your time, and thanks for sharing a little bit about Kate with us.
Well, we sure appreciate the opportunity. Thank you so much, Holly.
Don't be shy. Show us some barn banter love by leaving a review, and you can tell all your friends too.